Hey guys, what's going on? It's Apollo back for Stargirl Season 2, Episode 3, entitled Summer School Chapter 3. Now, a lot of people are saying we didn't get a lot of action, or we didn't really get a lot to see behind the scenes, who the real villain is and all that stuff in the first few episodes. And I'm happy to say this episode really answers a lot of questions in terms of the direction of the show and the season. Now, first of all, we start off 11 years ago where we see the JSA member Johnny Thunder, the original Johnny Thunder, and he's having a conversation with Pat, and they're discussing the Genie partner, Thunderbolt. And what I liked about this, it was kind of a heartfelt chat between the two. It was a chat of sidekicks. They were talking about what a pleasure it is to be sidekicks. Something we don't really hear. It's strange to hear this kind of narrative because we never really hear about it. You never hear Robin talking to Speedy or Red Arrow about what it's like to be a sidekick to Green Arrow or Batman. It's just a conversation we never hear. It kind of reminded me of that movie. Remember a movie called Sky High with the kids that was in the cloud and they went there for training? And within that training, you were either told that you were going to be a hero or a sidekick. And it kind of reminded me of that because there's a lot of sidekicks there and they took the pleasure in being sidekicks. So, but Johnny Thunder passes on these insecure feelings to Pat, and you could hear the themes of loneliness, inadequacy poured over to Mike Dugan because the pen chooses somebody who doesn't have a lot going on in life. And that's what I thought was kind of weird about where the pen ended up. But Mike's confidence goes from zero to hero all of a sudden when all of his doubts and insecurities are kind of wiped away when he gets in trouble with the pen. So Mike's experiencing some issues with his homework. His pen runs out. He finds Thunderbolt. He finds the pink pen. And little did he know that there was a genie inside. Thunderbolt actually came from the fifth dimension in the comics. You know, Mr. Mixoplex that we see on Superman and Supergirl's show, a fifth dimension imp. And he's controlled by speaking his name backwards. Yusei is his name, and it's backwards, it's say you. And that's in the comics. But in the comics, the world was threatened by Lisp, and it was a blue genie, similar to Thunderbolt, but evil in nature. But in the comics, Jakeem was able to merge the both genies together and control them by using the phrase suckle, which is so cool, pronounced so cool. So that's how that kind of worked in the comics. In the TV show, you can see it was just a pronunciation of so cool, but it's not explained why. Nobody actually tells you that that's actually his real name. And obviously, the genie can fulfill any wish made by Jakeem, though he occasionally follows Jakeem's wishes too literal. And what I think is difficult to grasp here is Jakeem looks like that lonely son, doesn't get on with his sister, mum's always calling his name and nagging him to do all these different things. But in the comics, Jakeem is actually self-reliant. He's kind of a kid that grew up on the streets. He's dependable, he's tough, he's adopted, his foul-mouthed attitude is something he uses to always survive. So that's not really something we see here in the TV show. It's kind of really made Jakeem out to be another version of Johnny Thunder. So in the comics, when Johnny Thunder began to lose control over his Genie Thunderbolt, it was because of his decline in mental health. So yes, you're lonely, depressed, and all those different things. And for some people, it can take a toll on you. And in the comics, it took a toll on Johnny Thunder. So what he did is he put the genie inside an ink pen without knowing its danger. And it was actually Jay Garrett the Flash that gave the pen to Jakeem. So here, it's a little bit different, guys, because Mike had the power and then he wished it away. So it's indicative of Mike. Mike talked about when he defeated Icicle, it was a mistake. Icicle just popped up in the middle of the road and then Mike drove into him and then bang, that was it. Whereas what it looks like to us is that it's something that he meant to do. And I think that was a good little chat with him and Yolanda, because Yolanda's really taken this thing to heart and she's just like, okay, I'll help you take on the Shade, but I ain't going to kill him. You know, I ain't going to do what I did with Brainwave. So she's turned into a pacifist right now, yeah? And that pacifism isn't going to help when you're dealing with the likes of Eclipso and Shade, who are looking really to control the narrative and take over the planet. we see Mike doing these paper round. There's a montage of him getting bullied by the kids, and this guy's a terrible paper round thrower. He throws it in the water, he throws it on the roof. There was one house that had about 10 of the papers on top of the roof, and it's just like, bro, give up your day job, it ain't gonna work. This isn't for you, man. I'm actually surprised that he hasn't been sacked yet, because if I was paying for a paper every day and I wasn't receiving it, and then I walked outside of my house and saw 10 lots of paper on top of my roof, I'd be complaining about it. That's just me anyway. For Mike, it's just not going well. He's getting bullied. He's got no friends, because he hasn't really. He talked about Jakeem earlier on, but where's his friends? He knows about the JSA, and they don't want him to be a part of the team, and that's his life, unfortunately. So you can see why he wants to be a part of something and how much it means to him. Now, originally, the Shade, initially portrayed in the Golden Age of comics as a thief that could manipulate shadows. But he was reinvented in 1984 as a morally ambiguous Victorian immortal who gained the ability to manipulate shadows. And I think here, having someone who can make constructs out of shadows, doesn't age, immortal, yeah, he can't die, using those abilities to attack and consume Dr. Midnight, which, now I think of it, that probably might not be something that happened. I know the kids are saying he killed him, he killed Dr. Midnight, but when you grab somebody and take them away out of the fight, as we saw that happened in the house when at the beginning of the Stargirl episode 1, it doesn't, I mean, you didn't see a fatality, you didn't see him actually die. What you saw is him actually getting swept away in darkness. So when I saw things like that, it started really making me think, is the fact that he actually left the Injustice Society, he abandoned their cause after betraying Jordan, which was Icicle. I kind of started thinking to myself, hold on, is this guy actually a villain? Or is this guy in between? Is he, you know, does he do bad things because he wants to do good? Or is he just the guy who's fed up with the whole bad thing? Because you remember, guys, he would have had to live a long time. Think about it. How old is this guy? As I said, he's Victorian. So he's hundreds of years old. He knew that Project America was doomed from the start. So he kind of has a feel for those things, doesn't he? Because he was like, nah, this thing's going to fail. And the fact that it failed, he showed great patience, because he remained in hiding for over 10 years, only returning after the project had failed. And I think in terms of his weaknesses, Pat talked about what happened with Starman. You know, his powers are based in darkness and shadows, and the bright light of the staff, which is emitted from the cosmic staff, the light, seemed to physically block Shade's powers. When he attacked Courtney, the hands that was holding Courtney down disintegrated because of the light. It kind of dislodged the hold that Shade had on her. So I think that in that way, Starman or Stargirl is probably his natural enemy. You know, light versus dark, it's a no-brainer. But I don't know, I still hope he's the main villain though, guys. But at the end of the episode 3, we can kind of see it gave me a different thought pattern. It gave me a different vibe. I don't look at Shade as a villain now. I look at him as somebody who wants to save Blue Valley. He wants to save the kids. He wants to try and stop Eclipso. So it tells me that he probably might want to help the JSA, and he might turn out to be an ally. Or maybe he just wants Eclipso for his own reasons. It could be both. But the one thing that I also thought about, guys, is Todd Rice. Todd Rice's missing appearance might be due to the Shade. It's possible that he's mentoring Todd Rice, which is Obsidian, Jenny's brother, so that he can feed off his darkness, or he's probably trapped in the Shade's Darklands. And think about it, both of their powers are the same. Obsidian can wrap his surroundings in darkness and make black smoke tangible in terms of whips and tentacles, and he can restrain people or send them flying. So there might be something in it, guys. Let me know what you think. I think there could be legs with this thing. But guys, overall, I think this was a decent episode. You know, Mike unknowingly wishes for Thunderbolt to be in better hands, and it ends up with his friend Jakeem. I think that that's going to be something special. We did get to see signs of Chuck when he warned Beth, but it still was a Chuck that didn't recognize Beth. It was like, you know, I don't know who you are, but heed this warning type of thing. So I was expecting Thunderbolt to fix the glasses, because it was mentioned, and I was like, yeah, Mike, all you have to do is say, Thunderbolt, can you fix those glasses? Bang, job done. But they didn't go that route, and I thought that was really strange. You could have done a lot with the time. Maybe he was a really bad user of Thunderbolt. But I have to say, the down part of this episode is, first of all, I'm going to give the episode a 7.5 out of 10. But I think that the Thunderbolt's animation could have been a little bit better. It looked a little bit tacky in places. And for the budget they have on the show, I think it could have been a little bit more. I did love the montage when they were writing about how the rules work with the pen and the genie. And it kind of reminded me of Robin Williams and Will Smith's Aladdin. You know, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. It was a nice little montage. But the one thing is because the genie is susceptible to commands, think of it like a Pokemon. You take a Pokemon out of their egg and their shell, and you have to tell the Pokemon what moves to do. And because of that, it was defeated pretty easily by the Shade. It flew towards the Shade to take him out, and the Shade's arms, tentacles just caught the genie and threw him aside. And it was like, well, what am I supposed to do now? So when you look at it, yes, it's all powerful. Yes, it's a genie. Yes, it can practically do anything in the world, far from bring anybody back from life or making anybody fall in love or anything like that. But unless its user knows how to use it, it's pretty much useless. And that's something which I think is really good, because it was mentioned by one of the team that he's automatically become the most powerful member of the team with a genie. And that is exactly not how it works. And Pat really talked about that. Pat was like, yeah, it's not how it works. It's a double-edged sword. Yeah, so I really did like that, guys. But I think we didn't really get much of Starman again. This is the second week in a row we didn't see Sylvester Pemberton. And Eclipso didn't really do much in this episode, who's undoubtedly the most terrifying villain of the show. But I think the Shade is just as bad. But the Shade has a soul, he has an understanding, and he's the perfect person to go up against Eclipso if this comes to blows. So I really want to see where it takes them. Next week we're getting Sportsmaster and Tigress back, which are supposed to be in prison. I don't know what's going on there. So I'd like to see what you guys think of this episode. Let me know in the thoughts below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out.